Hi, and welcome back to English 1302. I'm looking at the poems for week 10, and I realized there's a couple of hints that I might be able to provide you to help you understand these poems a little bit better. So let me encourage you to get a comfortable chair, open up a cold drink, put down a handout, and let's do some poetry. The first one I want to talk about is Richard Cory. It's a fairly straightforward poem by E.A. Robinson. It's about a guy who's young, good looking, he's rich, he's popular, everybody likes him, and everybody wishes they were like him. And he goes home and kills himself, puts a bullet through his head, and we don't really understand why. One of the main ideas of this poem is that suicide is inherently unknowable. No one really understands the reason for anyone else taking their own life. Now, something I caution my traditional students is that suicide is very personal and can be very painful. If I interpret this poem in a way differently than you do, that doesn't make your way wrong. I'm just interpreting it according to what I read and the events I've experienced in my life. So don't feel like your experiences are less than or inferior simply because they're different from mine. But yeah, Richard Cory is just about a guy who's seems to have every reason to go on living, especially compared to the speaker of the poem, and he chooses not to. But Dover Beach. Now, this is a great poem. It's written by Matthew Arnold, who was one of the metaphysical poets. The medical physical poets of England, well, Middle Europe, um, lived at a time when their culture, their society is undergoing this radical shift, this major change from existing based entirely upon faith in God, Christianity, the Catholic Church, and they're beginning to understand that they can understand through scientific principles, scientific method, investigation, proofs, theorems, mathematics, that they can understand the world around them. And it's causing a major change. And in Dover Beach, it's just talking, it's a guy talking to his girlfriend or his wife, and he says, come look at the beach tonight, come look at the waves, look how endlessly the tide is coming in and going out, dragging the gravel in and out. It's just an ongoing, repetitive motion. But gosh, how sad it is that the faith of this world is shrinking like a girdle around its middle. He's simply bemoaning the fact that as our scientific knowledge expands, our faith contracts. And that's very representative of the metaphysical poets. But anyway, I think you'll like that. Lots of good imagery, lots and lots of good imagery. We talked about Papa's Waltz already. Um, oh, the nymph's reply. Okay, so I paired these two poems for you. The Passionate Shepherd and the Nymph's Reply. Passionate simply means full of strong emotion. A shepherd is low income, low education, low man on the totem pole when it comes to culture and society. And he's talking to this girl and he says, come live with me and be my love. And if you do, then all these wonderful things will happen. We'll sit upon the rocks and we'll listen to these birds sing beautiful madrigals. I'll make thee beds of roses and a skirt made out of myrtle and a gown from the finest wool. Uh, uh, Fairline slippers with buckles of the purest gold. He promised her all these fantastic things, which of course shepherds don't have. And he's trying to win her heart. He's trying to seduce her heart with these flights of fancy, these fantasies. And about a year later, a guy named Sir Walter Raleigh wrote back. Christopher Marlowe, don't forget, was a contemporary of William Shakespeare. But Sir Walter Raleigh wrote back about a year later. The nymph's reply to the shepherd. In this case, a nymph is just a young girl, a young woman, and she writes back and she says she starts and ends the same way. Her first and last stanza have the same idea. If all the world and love were young and truth in every shepherd's tongue, then I would do what you're asked. She said, if you were telling me the truth, if everything you're describing was accurate, then I would live with you and fall in love with you, and you'd be in love with me, and life would be beautiful, yada yada yada. But the middle four stanzas are like, yeah, but that ain't right. She says, time drives the flocks from fields to fold when rivers rage and rocks grow cold, and the river becometh dumb. The river stops speaking because it ices over. The rest complains of cares to come. A honeyed tongue, a heart of gall is fancy's spring, but sorrows fall. So here the young woman is being very realistic. Yeah, it'd be nice to live perpetually in paradise, but we don't. We live in the real world, and the beautiful things you're describing just don't happen. But then she repeats it, but if that were true, then yes, I would really like to. So some really nice poems. Don't forget, you've got a lot of resources out there. Look them up: YouTube, podcast, TED Talks. There's just so many ways to understand these poems. But I encourage you to start by learning the vocabulary words and reading the poems carefully, reading them several times, read them out loud to yourself, hear the words, think about what they mean and what else they might mean. Remember, a poet uses the utmost in compression, force, and economy. So he's trying to squeeze as many meanings into each word as possible. He's trying to use the words that have the most meaning as possible. He's trying to get his ideas across in as few words as possible, but also he's trying to open the up to as many of your ideas as possible. Lots of meaning packed into few words. Read the poems, learn the vocabulary, and I really think you'll understand it and appreciate it a lot better. Have a great week.